Does the name Fenton mean anything to you? If you're half cringing and half laughing, thinking your dog is part Fenton, then this video is for you. You're also quite possibly very relieved that there is no footage of your Fenton on YouTube. I think everybody felt for the Fenton's owner, didn't they? So in this video, we are going to look at how you can totally transform your dog's recall. If your dog has moments where they go totally deaf to a recall, there is a way forward, I promise. It's a lot easier than you may also think. So many complications can be put onto training when it comes to recall. It's very straightforward and I want to help you, and I'm going to share some of my top tips with you today. So first of all, let's look at a recall from your dog's point of view. They are off lead, they're having the time of their life. They are chasing leaves, they are sniffing all the amazing scents around the park or wherever they might be. They are having crazy fast zoomies, they're crashing into you at 100 miles an hour and then they're off again in the other direction. It may also be that they come close to you and they get so close and they go, no, I'm not coming, no, you're not catching me, not now, I'm off again. If that is your dog, then you might be laughing. You're also quite possibly grimacing as well because you're thinking this is just, it's so painful when this happens. Now, the reason it happens like this is because from your dog's point of view, when we recall them, they're going, I'm having fun, my owner's recalling me, and that means my party is over. And nope, I'm not ready for that. I'm carrying on with this party. I'm having way too much fun. That's what your dog's thinking when they hear a recall. Dogs are always on the lookout for the better deal. And if after the first recall, they've ignored you and your voice gets a little bit louder, maybe their voice starts to sound a little bit firmer, again, what we're saying to them is, I'm really about to ruin your party. You need to come back here. And they're thinking, nope, I'm having way too much fun. What has happened in scenarios like this is we have totally accidentally taught our dogs that a recall means their fun is over. It's a real problem for a lot of owners. So if you're experiencing this, trust me when I say there are so many owners just like you. They often feel embarrassed, frustrated, and even rejected because their dog is choosing everything in the environment apart from them. Dogs are constantly making choices over what they see is going to be the biggest reward. And if we're honest with ourselves, when they are out and about and they're having fun, they're off lead and they're exploring, more often than not, the environment is going to win over us. The smells, the freedom, the exploring, the adrenaline rushes, the other dogs and people, and those people might have treats in their pockets. It's all incredibly exciting for our dogs and we've been forgotten about. It can feel like a lot for us to compete with. And we often think to ourselves, how am I going to flip this around so my dog wants to come back to me? One top tip, and I'm going to say this, but I know the majority of you will know this anyway. Dogs that come back when they are called out of fear, you don't want that for your dog. That's not going to be a happy, content dog. You don't want a dog that comes back and obeys a command purely because they have the fear factor of the consequences if they don't come back. So you do not want that for your dog. And I know you don't want that for your dog. Let's have a look at, rather than asking ourselves the questions of how do I stop my dog from ignoring me when we're out on walks, I would love for you to ask yourself the question, what can I do so my dog chooses me over the environment? What can I do to make myself more fun than the environment? This changes everything. Once you have switched that question around in your mind and you're thinking that way, your life with your dog when you're out and about is going to be totally transformed. When a dog struggles with a recall, the reason they struggle is their brain has built up the prediction of, I hear a recall, my lead goes on, my fun is over. That's how their brain has predicted recalls. And that has happened through time and time and time again of that exact scenario being rehearsed. So over time, completely unintentionally, we are actually building that predictor that our dogs have with a recall, and we are growing our dogs further and further away from us, and we're growing them to the point where they are choosing the environment over us. Dogs are brilliant pattern detectors. Think about every time you wander into the kitchen. Does your dog follow you? They're right behind you and they're going to the treat cupboard, they're going to the treat cupboard, they're going to the treat cupboard, because whenever you do go to the treat cupboard, their brain goes, oh, kitchen means treat cupboard, kitchen means treat cupboard. So if a recall constantly leads to, in their mind, disappointment, they are going to start hesitating more and more every time you recall them. And they are then repeating and building that habit of having that hesitation. And you find that that hesitation gets longer and longer and longer, to the point where actually they just start ignoring you. Imagine if every time your phone rang, it was your boss saying, can you work late again tonight, please? And you get to the point where you hear your phone ring and your heart sinks before you've even looked at the phone, because emotionally you have that predictor of your phone rings, oh, I'm going to have to work late tonight. It's exactly the same with our dogs. That predictor is very, very powerful. How can we flip this around for our dogs and for our sanity when it comes to a recall? We've all been stood there in fields, haven't we, where we've been calling and calling and calling and calling, and we're thinking, it's going to be dark soon, we need to get home. So we can flip this for our dogs. We want them thinking, I hear my recall, I come back to my owner, and we're going to have even more fun together. We want our dogs to be excited for a recall. So first of all, there are 3 really important areas for us to keep in mind before we start our recall training. The first one is to remember that we train for the situation. So rather than taking our dog to a busy park where there's lots going on and we then attempt to train a recall there, even on a long line, there's too much going on for our dogs. There's too many distractions. It's too stimulating. There's just too much going on. So we train for the situation. We're going to help our dogs out, make it easy for them. And we're going to build this up gradually to the point where we can then take them to environments where there are lots of distractions going on. But to start off with, we start really, really small. And the best place for you to start this is at home. You can play some games in the house, you can play some games in the garden, and you can then build in going places where there's very few distractions. You've got them on a long line, but there's very, very few distractions around for them, and you build it up very, very gradually. So make it easy for your dog and grow from there. And secondly, we want to think about our dog's stress bucket. We want them to have a fairly empty stress bucket so that they can really emotionally engage with us. They're focused on us and they are not easily distracted. Now, if you've got a dog that's got a fairly full bucket, they're going to be overstimulated, they're going to be on edge, they're going to be jumping at every noise, going, what was that? What was that? I need to look at this, I need to look at that. So even if you are playing games, say in the garden, if you've got a dog with a fairly full bucket already, then you're going to find it a bit harder to be playing the games with them. So pick your moments. It's that saying, isn't there? Pick your battles. Definitely pick your moments. If the environment is physically and emotionally louder than you are, your dog is really going to struggle. And thirdly, we need to be mindful of what our dog is rehearsing. Every repetition of what they do matters. If a dog is repeatedly rehearsing, ignoring their owner, disconnecting from their owner, being more focused on the environment, then those repetitions matter. and you are growing your dog in the wrong direction. So every repetition matters. Every repetition of good choices is just as powerful. Those neural pathways become stronger and stronger every time your dog repeats a behaviour, whether that be a behaviour we love, like coming back to us and playing with us, or a behaviour we're not so keen on, of ignoring us and running off. The behaviour becomes a habit. They're not being naughty if they run off and ignore us. They're simply doing what their brain is telling them is normal. We also need to think about the level of responsibility we are putting on our dogs. If we know the environment is challenging for them, we know they've got a relatively full bucket, and we know that they struggle with a recall, and we let them off lead, we're asking a lot of them to make a good decision. We can so easily flip this around for our dogs though, so that coming back to us is something they're excited to do. And we do this by playing games. We play games at home, we play games in the garden, we might go out to safe, quiet environments on a long line to start off with. We have lots of fun. And most importantly, we want our dogs to realise that a recall does not always mean that they're going home, and it actually means they're going to have even more fun with us. This is such a big mind shift for dogs to have. And when you see it happening with your dog, it makes such a difference. There are so many different ways you can do this. There's loads of different games that we can play. I'm going to share a couple of my favourites with you, and I've got some video footage that I'm going to insert in a minute of one of the gorgeous dogs that I have trained with and her owners. They've had a little bit of a struggle with recall, and her owners sent me this video, and well, you'll see. It's a fabulous way to have some fun when you are training for a recall. So have some of your dog's favourite food. It might be some of their favourite kibble, it might be some treats, it might be little tiny pieces of sausage or cheese. Have a little bit of a variety as well. And you can play a variety of different games. Say, for instance, if you're in the garden and they're off lead, you might be letting them go off and sniff around and things like that, and then let them know you've got some food. They'll smell it, they'll hear it. Wait for them to come over to you to investigate what's going on. And you might start off by actually throwing a piece of food away from you. So they're coming towards you, you don't even touch them, you throw a piece of food and they run away from you. So their brain goes, oh, okay, so when I come up to you, you're not going to grab my collar or harness and pop the lead on. That's interesting. So it's just starting to change the way that they're thinking. The other thing that you can do is have two different types of food. So maybe you've got some of their normal kibble, and then you've got something really high value, like a piece of chicken or cheese or sausage. So what you can do is you can throw a piece of, say, kibble away from you, let them go and get that. They know you've got food, so they're very likely going to turn around and come back to you. As soon as they come back to you to sort of say, what else have you got? You're going to give them 3 or 4 pieces of the extra high value food. So their brain goes, oh, I can go away, but actually when I come back, it's even better. So that's one game. The other thing that you can do is let them go sniff and do whatever they want to do. And when they come back to you, just drop a few pieces of food around your feet and then let them do whatever they want to. So maybe they then go off sniffing again. Because again, what this is doing is it's helping their brain rethink what it means when they come back to you, okay? That's really important. We want to change the way their brain is thinking about this. You can also do this if you are out and about in a very quiet place. Maybe you've gone to a quiet field where there's not much going on and you're on a long line. And again, you can play the same games. So you let them go off, do sniffing, you throw a piece of food, they come back to you and your hands don't touch them. Because that's what most dogs are predicting. Their brains go, oh, I come back, and they know you're either going to put your hand on the collar or the harness and you're going to click the lead, or you've got your lead in your hand waiting and you're holding the clicker. They know what all that means. So we just need to reshape the way that their brain sees coming back to you. So you're going to have fun. So let's have a look at this little girlie that I was telling you about. So here, now this girl, she can catch. So if your dog can catch food, this is a really fun game. And again, you can play this on lead, you can play this on long line, you can play it off lead in the garden, you know, have some fun with it. And all you're going to do is you're just going to walk along and you're going to have some food in your hand and you're just going to drop some food every now and then through your fingers for your dog to catch. And this is a brilliant game for quite a few reasons. First of all, your dog's walking beside you, which is lovely. They're focused on you, but they're looking up at you, which means they're not scanning the environment. They're not constantly looking for the next best deal in the environment. They're not looking for, you know, is there a dog over there? Is there a squirrel over there? Is there a deer over there? Or, oh, that leaf over there that the wind just caught. They're not paying any attention to that. So they're actually focused on you, but more importantly, they are growing their brain in the direction of ignoring the environment. You can have a play with this while you're walking home. So again, lead is on and your dog is having fun. For a lot of dogs, lead on simply means, oh, we're just walking home. You know, this is boring. This is boring. I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying this. I want to be playing in the field. So you can have some real fun with this game. And again, play it at home, play it in the garden, so your dog really starts to understand the value and how much fun this game is. You can even build in some surprises for your dog. So maybe you take a backpack with you and you take in your backpack their favourite tug toy, and they come over to you, and rather than this time popping some food on the floor, you actually have a game of tug with them. And again, their brain's going, this is interesting. I come back to my owner, my lead doesn't go on, we have some fun, and then I go off sniffing again. This is fun. This is good. I like this. For the majority of dogs, a recall always means my lead is going on. So when we are training for a recall, I always say to owners, I want you to aim for 80% of the time when you recall your dog, the lead does not go on. So we are aiming for our dogs to realise that pretty much 80% of the time when they come back to us, they're coming back and they're going to have even more fun with us. And maybe the 20% of the time when the lead does go on and we start heading home, we're actually having even more fun. And you can play around with this. So maybe your dog isn't quite there yet with catching. What you can do is, as you're walking home, you can stop and do a little scatter feed right around your feet. So you're walking and the dog's sort of thinking, okay, well, we're going home now. Oh, this is interesting. I've got scatter feed, you know, I've got some food around their feet that I can have. You can also hand feed them and things like that. So have some fun even on the walk home. If you are one of those owners where you have felt rejected by your dog, first of all, you are not alone. So many owners have had that feeling in the pit of their stomach of, why won't my dog come back to me? You know, it's so hard. And I get it. I've been there. It is so, so hard. You may also be one of those owners, and I have spoken to, I can think of 3, there's possibly been more, where they've actually said to me along the lines of, they will go somewhere safe into a field that they book, so they know it's an enclosed safe space for their dogs. They'll let them off because they feel guilty for not letting their dogs off lead, because they know how much fun their dog has when they're off lead, but they deliberately do not book anything in after the walk because they know they're at a risk of the walk taking longer than they think. So they don't book in work calls, they don't book in appointments, because they know the recall might take an extra half an hour. And they do it because they want their dogs to have fun, because they love their dogs and they want the best for their dogs. We can flip that around. So you are doing the best for your dogs. Your dog is having an amazing time because your dog is seeing you as so much more fun than the environment. So a recall to your dog goes, yes, I'm coming back. So if you have ever felt the fear of your dog potentially being the next Fenton, then have a go at this. Have a go at these games. They are so much fun. And I think you'll be amazed at the difference it makes. And Now, if you can look back on some past experiences and you can now laugh, at the time, I'm sure you were not laughing. If you've got some funny stories to share them in the comments, because it will help all the other dog owners. It will help them realise that they really are not alone with dogs that have totally ignored recalls.